So let's welcome teacher Tara. Thank you. Hello. Good. Great. Somebody had better be timing me because otherwise I will. Okay, so I'm looking at you. Okay, like stand up and do a dance if I don't look at you. Okay, please. Thank you. Great. We're going to talk about bilingual education, but I'm going to focus first on being bilingual. Okay. All right. First thing, a definition. First line. Being bilingual is the ability to understand two languages with near or equal fluency. So I have a question. Hands up. Who here can speak two or more languages? Now you don't have to read them. You have to be able to speak them. And I'm including different Chinese languages in this. So Taiwanese and Kejiahua or Mandarin and Taiwanese work as two languages. Who is bilingual or trilingual or hands up? I'm sorry, Michiganese is not a language. Okay, quite a few of you. All right, I'm talking to English teachers in Taiwan, so that makes sense, right? I hope my co-teacher put her hand up because yes, but she is. All right, good. Now, question number two. Raise your hand if you think that being bilingual gives you a better brain. In layman's terms, that means makes you smarter. Hands up.
Boy, are you wrong.
Boy, not so many. Okay, I'm bored. Okay, now I am technically monolingual. Okay, I'm learning a second language, but I'm not anywhere near fluent. So monolingual means obviously I speak how many languages? One, right. If I'm bilingual, I speak two. If I'm trilingual, I speak three. Right, okay. So I'm going to use bilingual, but I really mean multilingual. I don't speak. Oh, Canadian and English. You're funny. Okay. Okay, those of you who put your hands up that said, yeah, I think that it gives me a better brain, or it basically makes me smarter, or right. Okay? I'm going to go through some of the benefits, surprising benefits of knowing two or more languages. First of all, it gives you a better memory. Now, if your memory is really bad, just think how bad it would be if you only spoke one language. You actually make more rational decisions. Okay? Surprising but true. It gives you more job opportunities. It creates easier networking. It actually gives you better multitasking skills. Now, this is right now I'm talking about economic benefits too, but also brain benefits. So I'll tell you about one of the studies in terms of multitasking skills that's also related to more observant of your surroundings. They put monolingual people and bilingual people in driving simulators. Okay, you know what a driving simulator is? They give you a little machine. They're not really a car, and they say, okay, you speak one language, you sit over there in that car, mini car. You speak two languages, you sit over there in that car. All right. Okay, both of you drivers. All right, here, have a cell phone. Here, have a cell phone. All right, drive. But talk on your cell phone. Hey, you, drive. Talk on your cell phone. Now, both of them, for everybody, their driving skills went down. Okay? Don't drive and talk on your cell phone. All right? But the people who spoke more than one language still did better and drove better than these people. Okay? So just think, if you are bilingual and you are not a very good driver, it's a good thing that you're bilingual. All right? Which means that I should be a better driver if I actually learn another language. So, jiayo to me. All right. Delayed dementia or Alzheimer's, like between 4 and 5 years delayed. That's a big jump. Do you understand what I mean by dementia or Alzheimer's? Some of you are nodding. A dementia is a disease of the brain when you can no longer think clearly. Let's verify. simple, okay? For example, my father got dementia when he was diagnosed when he was in his maybe late 70s. But in terms of research, they're saying that, and my father was trilingual. If my father had been monolingual, only spoken one language, maybe he would have been diagnosed at 71 instead of 77. Okay? It's good for your brain. All right. It gives you more awareness of your own language, your native language. That's good. And it increases your cultural sensitivity. Sort of makes sense. All right. I don't know how I'm doing for time. All right. Let's go to the next study. The next thing, I want to tell you about a study about for babies first. This starts really early on. It doesn't have to. You can still learn a language later in life, but the earlier you start, the better for your brain. Monolingual children, again, you speak one language, you speak two languages in your home. This was in Italy, but it's been done more, the study's been done a couple of times. What they did was they said, okay, here's a TV screen. We're gonna say the word look, and when we say look, this little puppet's gonna appear, and all the babies are like, wow! So they learn to, when they hear look, to look over there. And yeah, a puppet shows up. So 7 months, okay, 7 months. And then what they did was they said, all right, we're gonna change the little puppet and we're gonna put it on this side of the screen. The babies who only heard one language couldn't transfer and look to the other side of the screen. They had learned, look at this side of the screen. And they didn't look at the other side of the screen when something changed. The babies from the homes where they were speaking two languages to the baby, they were able to go, oh, what's there? But oh, it's over here now. Pretty cool, huh? 7 months. 7 months. All right, that's one of them. The second study that came up quite often was a woman, I don't even know how to say her last name, so I'll call her Dr. Ellen, was something, thank you, the Polish speaker can say it, was a question that she put to 5 and 6-year-olds. Her question was, apples grow on noses. Now, is that sentence correct? Is that a correct sentence? Is the sentence right? And the one language children said, apples grow on noses? That's silly. Yes, that's true. It's silly. It's a silly sentence, isn't it? But is it a correct sentence? Is it okay, like a sentence? No, that's silly. That's all they could figure out. The bilingual children said, apples grow on noses? That's silly. And she's like, yeah, it's silly, but is the sentence okay? Yeah, the sentence is okay. It's silly, but it's okay. All right? So now they can do things. They can put children in a machine and they can follow what's going on in their brain. And what they see is happening is that the children who are speaking more than one language, go on to the next slide, sorry. What happens is that they can focus on important stuff and they ignore what's not important. Their brain has a flexibility to go, okay, it's a stupid sentence. No, apples don't grow on noses. But yes, I understand that it's okay, yeah, okay. We call this the executive control system. And so they can actually map what's going on in the executive control system. It's really cool. Don't want to be an English teacher, you can always take a medical, I don't know, research or something. All right, so when you use one language, what happens is, for you too, okay, your brain activates all the languages that you know. It's called co-activation. How are we doing for time? Okay, all right. Okay, so if you speak 3 languages, and I start to say, ka, your brain actually goes in 3 languages to try and figure out what I'm going to say. If I speak only one language and somebody says ka to me, I can only think in English. Who gets more exercise? Whose brain gets more exercise? Yeah, the multilinguals. Your brain is working 3 times as hard. Well, maybe not, but it's working harder. So when you hear the rest, then there's something in your brain that goes, oh, that's not important information. But the fact you have to figure that out is really good for your brain. It's like mental exercise. It is mental exercise. Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about this and then I'll stop. Your brain is really cool. It is like it's like a muscle. You know, Tiger Woods is really good at what? Oh, he's really good at golf. But you know what? Tiger Woods is good at more than just golf. He's good at scuba diving. Apparently he's a certified scuba diver. I had no idea. Yeah, he has a lot of money to take up another sport. But if you are an athlete, you're pretty much an athlete across the board. You can't, maybe all your skills aren't the same in every area, but if you can play hockey, a lot of hockey players play golf in the summertime, and they're good.
What?
Why?
No, never mind.
Okay, all right. Because their body is used to movement, they exercise, they're used to it, and so those skills transfer. Same thing happens in your brain. All right, let's go on to the next slide. There is this working back and forth of your brain has one negative that I could find, and the negative is, you know, when you're about, you're like, oh, what's that word? Oh, I know that word. Oh, it starts with a T. What is it? Okay, there's a word for that. I don't remember what the word for it is, but okay, but that's the one negative. It's harder for you to grab certain words out of the air. But your positives, when you speak more than one language, is that whole list earlier, just like, you know, better driver, what are some of the other things? You are actually better at certain games that require, never mind, there's more tests. It's not as necessarily complex thought, but the other thing about being multilingual, they said more rational decisions, right? What happens is when you have to make a decision, you think it through in one language. Then you are able to think it through in another language, and then you are more confident about your decision, whether it's wrong or right. But they actually, research says you are actually more rational. In general, you look at things, any situation, more logically. Some of us could really use that. All right. Okay, next one. Okay, bilingual education is when academic content is taught in 2 languages, your native language, your mother tongue, and the secondary language. And sometimes, often it's like 50-50, so in the morning you do one thing, things in this situation it would be English and probably Mandarin, right? It doesn't have to be, it could be anything. Most of the stuff that comes out of the United States is in Spanish, but it doesn't matter. So 2 languages, bilingual education, but that amount can vary later on. Later it can be, you know, we do math and language arts in English, but we do all of our other subjects in Vietnamese, I don't know, something, just some other language. Anyway, next slide, please. I did a lot of my research focus came from this association, and they looked at successful bilingual schools, and the way that they did it was they said, okay, whose students are performing really well? So if this is the average, you know, on their SAT scores or other scores now, who's above that? Let's see what they're doing, as we have a bilingual school starting here, so I was curious. Their whole approach is, yes, learn English, but you never do it at the expense of your native language. Your native language, actually, using your native language in a classroom makes English, learning another language, more efficient, okay? Which is counterintuitive, but it's true. Bilingual approach is the best approach to learning English, is what they found. And you learn English while learning content. So I'm not just gonna go in and teach an English class, this is English. I'm gonna go in and teach you art, but I'm going to use English to speak to you. That's what I mean by content, right? Okay, so they did a thing called Good Schools for Children Learning English, and they came up with 10 similarities. Time. Okay. I'm going to run through these. Number one, strong leadership. So the principals were really committed. They're like, this is the best way to learn, and 5 minutes, good. And we are committed to the school, so strong leadership is important. The teachers knew why they were there, and they also were supportive. Yes, we understand the research, we agree, and that's why we're teaching at the school. A safe and positive school climate. They said the schools, all the schools that they looked at were very orderly, so physically safe, but they also said there's a lot of trust. You know, often there's a lot of distrust between administration and teachers. There was a lot of trust. You are teachers, we think you can do the best job, if you want to try something new, go for it. Organization and accountability was that if they took the bilingual program out, the school would change. So it's not like it's just an add-on, hey, let's try this, throw it on. It was actually organized around it. So, and accountability. They said, a lot of the teachers said, it kept coming up again, they said, if I don't do my job really well next year, people are going to come back and say, what happened to the student? So in the schools that they went into, the teachers knew their students well, but they never set class sizes. I never got any information about how big the classes were. All right. Professional development, but professional development was often, we are in the same grade, what's working in your class? Oh, this is working really well. Okay, let's try it in our class. So they said a lot of peer professional development. Parents were involved, okay? And they worked to get parents involved. That's going to happen in any school. We've got good parental involvement and good. Staff accountability and assessment. I remember what I said for that one. Let me look. Oh, that it was regular, but the assessment was very systematic, and like I said before, you held yourself accountable for how your students were doing. So you put in maybe extra effort, but more importantly, they didn't talk about time. So they just that you knew your students and you were willing to try different things to try and make sure that your student learned. Staff selection, they really tried to get people who spoke both languages, but I read other stuff where they said that wasn't important. And if you did a good job, then you were recognized for it, and that the community was involved. Okay? All right. When I was doing my undergrad, I read a study that said that there were Spanish speakers, and you put Spanish speakers in an learning English environment in a regular class, often those students never did very well. But if you took those students out and you put them in a school with other English-speaking speakers, both the English speakers and the Spanish speakers, they were getting classes in both English and Spanish content. They not only met the normal baseline for how they should be doing, they surpassed it. They went they were above average. This was in California, and it was years ago. And I remember reading that thinking, if I ever have a kid, I don't care what it takes, but I am making sure that child learns another language, because I know what my brain is like and it needs all the help it can get. Okay, but it's funny, most of you take this for granted. I don't know if you know the research, but you don't think, I speak 2 languages or I speak 3 languages, and my brain goes back and forth all the time. You have no idea, some of you, how good that actually is for you. And the rest of us are jealous. But I take Chinese classes in the evening, and most of my coworkers are, my classmates are Indonesian and Vietnamese. Most of those women speak Mandarin, and Mandarin only to their kids. And one of the researchers once said, people come up to me and say, I'm Australian, I'm marrying somebody from Germany. What should we do? Should we speak in English in our home? And she says to them, you are sitting on a gold mine. Don't you dare lose this opportunity. Yes, you speak English to him, to your child, but your wife, get her to speak German. Get her to speak German. And so I wish I could tell my classmates this. Guys, you speak Vietnamese to your children. But I can't. But I can tell you. So that's what I just did. Okay? Time's up and I'm done. One question.
On the education, did you find research it addressed all four modes, reading, speaking, listening, the reading and the writing to bilingual for both languages?
The research doesn't actually
Or just
separate.
Speaking of a second language?
No, what they're doing is they're taking, for example, like taking an SAT, which has everything involved. Your score across the board for everything would be higher. Yeah. Does that answer your question? So they're not differentiating reading versus writing versus.
No, but all four modes are taught in the second language and they're taught in the first language as well.
Yes,
So they get
because
the maximum benefit.
yes, because they're not focusing just on language, they're focusing on content. We're in a math class, so we get listening, speaking, reading, and writing.